The main legal issue is whether Oceanic Line exercised will to diligence under the Article 3 and Rules 1 of the HVR had used whisper rules to ensure the vessel was seaworthy before and at the start of voyage. Under this rule, a carrier must take reasonable steps to make sure the ship is seaworthy and the cargo is properly loaded and handled. However, the carrier are generally allowed to rely on the shipper declaration, especially when the containers are sealed. In the case law, Dr. Shipper COD and the Dashiell C. Redirect, the captain of Sahavos, the court decide that the normal pre-shipper check are sufficient when there are no reason to suspect misdeclaration. Similarly, on the Asia line conductor routing inspection and accepted the cargo based on the shipper declaration and the non-hazardous metal part. There was no warning sign to suggest the cargo was actually the flammable. Therefore, the Oceanic Line fully in duty of due diligence and the cargo owner claim failed.
The next issue we will discuss is whether the improper stowage of misdeclared dangerous cargo on deck amounts to a breach of the carrier duty under Article 3(2) of the Hague Visby Rules. This issue arises not simply because the cargo was dangerous, but because of how the carrier handled and stowed it during the voyage. Under Article 3(2), the carrier has a non-negligible and ongoing duty to properly and carefully load, handle, store, carry, and care for the goods. This means the carrier remains responsible for operational decisions, even when relying on information provided by the shipper. In this case, the container was described as metal parts, but actually contained flammable solvent. Although the shipper clearly misdeclared the cargo, the carrier still had a responsibility to stow and manage the cargo with reasonable care, so the carrier can't dodge liability by pointing at the shipper. Improper stowage that amplify the fire risk. That's a clear Article 3(2) breach.
Hello, my name is Siti Novaina binti Ibrahim, matrix number BB234030696. I'll be presenting the third issue for each question 1 and 2. Okay. For the question 1, the issue is whether Oceanic Lines is legally liable for misdelivery and conversion when its stevedores release the cargo to a neighboring mills without the presentation of the original negotiable bill of lading. For the rules, under the law governing carriage of goods by sea, there are 3 key functional bill of lading. Firstly, it is a receipt for goods. Secondly, evidence of the contract of carriage. And thirdly, a document of title. Liability is strict, meaning the carrier is liable even if the delivery was made by mistake. This rules was confirmed in the case of Z Haitong Bank Ltd with Rambler Cycle Co Ltd and Motis Export Ltd with Damskill Cell Cabet AF. For the application, Oceanic Lines delivered the cargo to a neighboring mills. The cargo was released without the original bill of lading, and the mistake was made by a porter at the terminal, making that Oceanic Lines is responsible for the action of port and terminals workers. Delivery to the wrong party interfered with Tropicana Mill's legal right to the goods. So in conclusion, Oceanic Lines committed misdelivery and conversion, and the carrier is liable for the loss regardless of the innocent mistake made by the porter at the terminal. Thank you.
The legal issue is whether the buyer, mill, can refuse to pay under a CIV contract because the rights no longer exists after the ship sinks during the transit. Under CIV contract as recognized by the Incoterms 2020, the seller main obligation is the delivery confirmation shipping document, not the physical goods. This include a clean bill of lading, invoice, and insurance policy. When the goods are loaded onto the vessel, is passed to the buyer. The principle was confirmed in members Securities Co Ltd and the Cost Product COD Ltd 1919, where the buyers were recommended to pay even though the goods were lost at the sea, as long the proper documents were presented. In this case, the export provided all valid documents properly, included the insurance coverage. Therefore, the bare meal must pay despite the loss of cargo. Refusal to pay amount to the breach of the contract.
Next, I will discuss whether a seller fulfilled their obligation under a CIF contract when the goods are lost at sea before the documents are tendered. Under a CIF contract, the sale is a sale of document, not the goods themselves. The seller's main obligations are to ship the goods, arrange carriage and insurance, and tender a complete and confirming set of documents to the buyers. These documents include a clean on-board bill of lading, a commercial invoice, and insurance policy. Once the goods are shipped, the risk passes to the buyer. In this case, although the vessel sank before the documents were presented, the seller later tendered all the required CIF documents. The documents were genuine, complete, and fully compliant with the contract. Therefore, the seller has fulfilled their CIF obligations. The buyer must pay against the documents and claim for the loss under the insurance, rather than refusing payment. So, in conclusion, tendering proper CIF document discharge the seller's obligation even if the goods are lost at sea.
Alright, the issue for the question 2 is whether Global Foods breaches duty to nominate an effective vessel under FOB and cause Orchard Export to terminate the contract. Alright, for the rules, under a free on-board FOB contract, the buyer must nominate an effective vessel, and the vessel must be ready and able to load the goods within the agreed time. Meanwhile, the time clauses in FOB contracts are usually treated as condition, and the breach of condition allows the innocent party to terminate the contract. This was confirmed in the case of Bungie Corporation with Tradex Export SA and the case of the Michaelis Angelos. For the application, the contract required Global Foods to nominate a vessel by the 1st of June, but the Global Foods failed to nominate any vessel by that date. The vessel was only nominated on 15th of June, which was late from agreed time. And the late nomination caused the Orchard Export prevented from performing its loading obligation on time. This failure affected the commercial purpose of the contract. So, in conclusion, Global Foods breached the FOB contract because the breach was a breach of condition, and Orchard Export was entitled to terminate the contract. Thank you.